Hey guys, my name is Jeremy with thewarriorsolution.com. In this video we are talking about the best marksmanship training aid I have ever used. This is the MantisX training system made by MantisX, and this particular model is the X10 Elite. The X10 Elite is the top of the line model that Mantis produces. With this device I can basically attach it to any firearm or my compound bow and get real-time, very precise, very accurate feedback on exactly how much movement there was prior to, during, and after the trigger is being pulled and the striker or firing pin falls. This works for dry fire, CO2 recoil, and live fire. In other words, with this device I can train here in my house during this, Once this is over, I can take this to the range, attach it to my firearm, and actually shoot real bullets with it attached to get real feedback on my strengths and weaknesses in my shooting techniques with real bullets. That is phenomenal. This thing is like having a full-time shooting instructor in your pocket that never misses a beat and just calls you on every little mistake that you make. It doesn't care who you are, what you do, what your resume is, it just calls it like it sees it. So this X10 Elite was sent to me by MantisX at no cost to me to basically test and review for you guys. There was no monetary exchanges or any caveats or nothing under the table or anything at all. They just said, hey, here, check this out, let us know what you think. I think it's awesome. There's that. Alright, so yes, it was given to me for free, but no, that does not influence my review of it at all. It's a fantastic product, and I definitely endorse it 100% for sure. So how does this all work? Basically, you take your MantisX device and attach it to your firearm. I'm going to be obviously doing this in my house, so I'm going to be doing everything dry fire. So when you are doing anything with firearms in general, but especially when you're going to be dry firing, you definitely want to make sure that your firearm is completely unloaded and you do not have any live ammo anywhere at all in the area. So this gun is completely unloaded. I do not have a magazine in the chamber. A magazine in the chamber. yeah, I know what I'm doing. So this gun is completely unloaded, and the MantisX attaches to basically any rail system. Obviously I'm going to be using the rail on the front of my pistol here, and it just slides right into place just like that. To start the training process, you're going to open up the MantisX app, turn on your device, and that works by the single button on the unit. You just push it till the green light starts blinking like this, and then push connect. So now the app is looking for the device. There it is, it's found it. So within the app here you can scroll through and you've got a whole bunch of different training scenarios and different things that you can do. Again, this is the X10, which is the top of the line version, so I've got all of the options for everything that Mantis does. So here at the top you can see obviously the holster draw analysis and the recoil meter. Those are both X10 exclusive features. I have not had a chance to look at those yet. This is definitely going to be one of probably many videos on the Mantis system and all the different things that it does. The main focus of this one is going to be for dry fire training specifically. And then obviously coming down you've got, open turning, shot timers, the MantisX benchmark, all these things that you can do with the app and the device. So let's go into just open training here. So I'm going to hit open training. Now the device wants to calibrate. So how to calibrate is just super simple. Just put your gun down on any solid flat surface. Once it's done calibrating, that calibration screen goes away and you are now ready to fire. So in the open training section, obviously you can see you've got dry fire, CO2 as in CO2 airsoft gun like gas blowback for recoil and everything. Awesome. And then live fire, which again I have not had a chance to test yet, but anyway, dry fire. I'm going to be shooting right-handed and my device is pointed forward. So when you change that, it's going to recalibrate. Forward just means that the USB charging port is facing towards you and not towards your target. So I'm going to put it down, let it calibrate. There we go. And once you're ready to go, you hit start. So now, as you squeeze the trigger and start your training session, you'll see I've set a threshold for the app to look for. Basically, I've set a minimum score that I want it to make a noise for me on, so that I know that I've just scored basically within my goal. You've also got options for where it will actually read you out loud the score that you got. So I'm going to just shoot a couple more here so you can see. Alright, so looking into the app, you can see this first screen. I fired 7 shots. The last shot I fired was a 96.9. And these red bars you see around the circle here, if you click on those, that is basically a digital representation of that classic, shooter mistake card that you see on ranges where they pull a card out and say, oh, based on your shot group, you're anticipating recoil, or you're jerking the trigger, or whatever. That is the algorithms within the app and the device itself talking to each other and figuring out, based on the movement of the gun, you probably did this, and it's extremely accurate. So pushing forward, you can see the description here. It tells you what you did wrong, what you can do to improve it. You see it also says maybe breaking the wrist down. In other words, probably anticipating a little bit of recoil, breaking the wrist down. And you can go through each one of those little red bars around the edge and see exactly what went wrong and what went right. In addition to that, you can also swipe to see even more information. So this graph here, you can see the blue bars show my hold, how much movement there was as I was trying to hold the gun still to fire. And then the yellow bars represent the amount of movement as I was squeezing the trigger. So the ultimate goal is to keep the gun completely still throughout the entire process, through aiming, pulling the trigger, the follow through, everything. And that works, going back to the app, that works for each individual shot. So you can see the movement there looked a little bit cleaner than the first shot. Third shot, 99.7. There you go. So that was a really good shot there. So there's also here, this is actually live. So this is the real-time feedback loop here. So the streaks you see running around on the screen there is the actual live motion of the gun itself. So as I do circles here, you can see how that translates into the app. So diving into the menus of the app a little bit more, you can see that there's a ton of different options and things you can do with your MantisX. Just to give you an example, the MantisX benchmark here. This is basically a 10-shot string where the app and everything is looking at your current abilities and giving you an average score. So no matter who you are, what your resume is, the app doesn't care. It just takes the data that it's given based on the movement that you induced in the gun while you were shooting it and spits out a score. It also spits out possible areas for you to improve on and things to look out for and all that stuff. Again, this is just in the dry fire mode at the moment. This is not only a dry fire training tool, it's also a live fire training tool. And the X10 Elite specifically is a very, very powerful dry fire and live fire tool because it can analyze your recoil pattern, your holster draw, everything that comes together to contribute to an awesome shot can be measured and plotted and analyzed by the MantisX app and device. So to give you an idea of what this benchmark is, I'm going to do 10 shots basically poorly, intentionally messing it up to show you what basically wrong looks like. Alright, so you can see I'm in dry fire mode, right-handed forward, hit start, and this is not timed. There are timed options if you want, but this is basically just to get kind of a baseline for where you're at skill-wise. So Mantis knows all right. So you can see my average score is 32.7. Crushed it. All right, so 32.7, first shot, 87.4. That's not actually bad. 35.6, shot number 3. Ooh, shot 6, 7.4. So obviously this, you can see each individual shot breakdown. The blue bar there represents the amount of movement in the gun prior to the shot, and the yellow is as the trigger is being pulled. So if we swipe over to the next screen, we can see, whoo! All right, so what is this giant red block here at the top of this score ring? Well, if you count the number of sequences in that, that is the number of shots that had that specific issue. So if it was a big issue and it happened multiple times, you'll get a giant red indicator on this particular screen that's pointing to that issue. So if you tap on it, you can see breaking wrist up. So breaking wrist up, again, I'm just reading off what the app is telling me. If I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm a brand new shooter and I'm going, what in the world is going on? Breaking wrist up means the wrist relaxed during the trigger and the handgun moved up. So basically you're limp wristing it is another term for that. To correct, you have to tighten your grip, grab the gun, hold on to it, and squeeze the trigger throughout the whole entire process. Another super common mistake is breaking the wrist down or anticipating the recoil and actually dumping the barrel down just prior to the shot, because again, recoil. All right, so there's that. The other one here, the one shot pushing. So pushing means that the dominant hand is pushing the gun, which ultimately makes the weapon move up and towards the opposite side. So in that case, it would be up and left, because my right hand is pushing more than my left hand is supporting. And here you can see, whew, lots of movement, lots of movement. So your goal is to take this data, realize what went wrong, and then figure out how to fix it. If you have no idea what you're doing, the app actually tells you how to fix it. It says what you did wrong and basically how to make it better moving forward. So looking at, which one of these was bad? Shot 6, whew, shot 6. So the blue line again is the movement as I'm aiming the gun, so I'm all over the place like a wet noodle. The yellow is as the trigger's being pulled, so you can see there that breaking wrist up. That line goes straight up, and then the red is the break itself of the trigger and the striker falling. So that amount of movement is really, really bad for consistent, accurate marksmanship. And it doesn't matter if you are a police officer, military, competitive shooter, civilian, concealed carrier, brand new person to firearms. Basic marksmanship fundamentals apply across the board. Doesn't matter who you are or what you do. In this app, in combination with obviously the device you attach to your firearm and actually using it and learning from it, is pretty much the best marksmanship training aid I've ever used. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. So looking at some of the other things that the app contains, you can see we have a history tab here, and that shows you every shot you've ever fired using the Mantis training system. Going over to the next tab, we have the groups. So groups allow you to basically link up with friends or colleagues or whatever and challenge each other, train together, all that good stuff. And then popping over into these settings, you can see here, I am in the firearm app. Mantis has currently, I believe it's 3 different applications which are all installed separately on your phone. They're all free. Once you purchase the actual device, the application is free. So in the firearm section here, you can see you choose the gun which you are using. This system again works with pistol, rifle, shotgun, bows and arrows, pretty much everything. So obviously I'm using pistols right now. And you can see that it says Smith & Wesson M&P. That's because I went in there and actually chose the pistol that I'm using to tell the program exactly what pistol I'm using. Obviously the dimensions of each pistol is going to be different, so the amount of movement and things is going to be slightly different. It's not a requirement, but it does help a little bit. And then obviously here you can choose which hand you are primarily shooting with, the shot mode that you are using. You got live fire, dry fire, and CO2 recoil, which is fantastic for training, and then the mounting direction of your Mantis device itself. So forward just means that the USB charging port is facing towards you, and then backwards obviously the other way. So depending on the length of your rail on your particular firearm, you might have to get creative and mount it in a different way. And then obviously the mount location, you can see your profile, and then all the advanced settings down here. So in addition to just the chime, obviously you can have speech. So if you do a volume check.
Did you know? The first Mantis prototype used the motion sensors of an Android phone that was literally strapped to a Glock 19 with about 30 rubber bands.
And now you know. So what that does is basically read out the score as you're shooting. So just to show you what that looks like. As you're shooting,
'71.
There we go. So there you see one of the minor issues with the Mantis. It doesn't record every single shot. I found that the more ridiculous the movement is prior to the shot breaking, the less likely it is to record the shot, because again, it's looking for very fine movement and actually attempting to be precise. It's not really looking for, special movement like that. So holding it still
50
and shooting obviously works a lot better.
93.
So
93.
as you can see,
43. 48.
I'm slapping the trigger here. There's one.
59.
So I'm slapping the trigger, which means I'm just going, I want to shoot now.
34.
And the result speaks for itself. I want to shoot now. 2. Versus squeezing the trigger
83.
and following through
94. 87.
You can see there's a big difference. That gives you an idea of how the app is usable. And here, looking at the screen, we see that there was a lot of different mistakes made. The biggest mistake there is pulling the shot low and right. So we had 3 different instances of a very bad mistake for whatever that is. So if we tap on that, tightening grip. So that means that just before the shot broke, I went, tightening the grip obviously is going to change where the barrel is oriented, which ultimately is going to change the trajectory of the bullet and where the bullet's going to impact the target. So tightening your grip before shooting, no bueno. You want to be consistent across the board with everything. Grip, trigger squeeze, press, 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 press. Once the trigger breaks, hold what you got, follow through. All that, all basic fundamentals, all applied together equals accurate shooting. Again, with this screen, your goal is to keep those bars as small as possible, so you have minimum movement across the board. And then looking at your replay here, you can see quite a bit of movement. And then once I started squeezing the trigger, that yellow bar and the red bar, you can see that the movement really dialed down and became a lot smaller. So let's find a not so great shot. Whew. Here's a good example of way too much movement when you're shooting, right? That blue line, that's a train wreck right there. All that movement is completely inconsistent. And if you are completely inconsistent, you're gonna have completely inconsistent results, and you're just gonna look like a shotgun hit the target, if you hit the target at all. So everything, marksmanship fundamentally speaking, just dials back to you trying to be as still as humanly possible. So there you can see, this is what slapping the trigger looks like. So if we watch that again, the blue line again is movement prior to the shot, and then as soon as I start to squeeze the trigger, that's the yellow line. As soon as I start to squeeze the trigger, you can see that it increases speed and deviation from that center point. So I'm aiming in where I want to go, and I want to shoot. Now, all that movement translates into poor accuracy, and you can see it clear as day in the app here. You can see, all right, I'm gonna try to hold still. Okay, I'm holding, and boom, there you can see it. So that's what wrong looks like. Score-wise, this thing has a couple of little issues with connectivity that I've experienced occasionally. Sometimes when I try to pair the device with the app, it would pair up and then immediately drop and pair and drop and pair and drop. That's happened a couple of times, and then using it with my CERT training pistol, it's not 100% reliable. The disclaimer with that, though, is that MantisX is aware of that, and they very expressly, right out the gate in the first email to me, said, hey, this is a firearm training tool for dry fire and live fire. It's not specifically designed to work with CERT pistols, because there is actually no striker or firing pin moving. There is no, firing happening. The trigger falling is just a simulation. So it's worked probably about 85 to 90% of the time with my CERT. Occasionally it won't pick up a shot, but that's not a big deal. Overall, it worked pretty well for me. The final score for the Mantis X10 Elite from me is going to be a 5 out of 5. Even with the little minor connectivity issues, that's not a deal breaker for me at all. It's only happened a couple of times, and it's primarily just when I'm connecting the device with the app initially. So it's not an issue that's ongoing, during training sessions. It just drops connection or anything like that. And then working with the CERT, because Mantis explicitly said it's not designed for a CERT, it may not work as effectively. Okay, that's not a fault of the product at all. You can't say,
well, your car didn't do well underwater.
Yeah, so obviously that doesn't count at all. So the only issue worth talking about is just the minor connectivity thing, and it's a non-issue. You just basically turn the device off, turn it back on, and roll out. So 5 out of 5, no other complaints at all. Awesome product. That is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching up to this point. I know this was a very long video, and I appreciate you sticking in there with me the whole time. If you're not already followed and subscribed and all that good stuff, if you watched this far, you might as well. You be sure to follow @TheWarriorSolution on Instagram and Facebook and all that other stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.